when it's a triple top, the more likely you get a breakout.
Yes.
So what this could tell us is that you might see Ethereum versus Bitcoin actually make a big move here. Maybe that coincides with the merge. We'll have to see, but it certainly is an interesting chart here. Yeah, so oil has broken some key levels to the downside. I think, months ago we were talking about when oil was $125, $130 a barrel. I said, hey guys, it's not going up. It's going to fall. That's exactly what it has done. You can see here was your Russia invasion. And I love showing this chart. If we go to your weekly chart, actually, let's do the monthly. Look at the perfection of this. So if you connect this low to basically through here and through this low, and then you do a parallel line to this high, look at the high on the invasion. I mean, talk about the charts just dictating the max price and telling us that. You had the pullback, then the bounce, and then we've seen oil coming down. I still think oil comes down even more this year. In fact, if I throw up a trend line, this is my target on oil by year end, which is about $75 a barrel. So, you're looking at more downside here. Doesn't mean it can't bounce a little bit. But for me, if we get big enough bounces, I'm shorting oil. All right. You can't tell me that if the economy is slipping into a recession, and if we're going into recession, then Europe's going into recession, then I mean, everyone's going into a recession. And you can't tell me that demand for oil is not going to fall. At some point, you're going to see some resolution with Russia as well. In addition, let's be fair, Russia's selling all their oil anyways to the open market. They're just selling it to China and India, right? So, I mean, it's not like the U.S. and Europe's like, oh, we won't buy their oil. Well, they're just selling it to someone else at that point for a discount. So it's all ending up on the open market. And again, to me, that spells economic slowdown, oil still flowing out there. Yeah, so the S&P has had quite the dip, right? I mean, we've seen, especially, it was starting to pull back a couple weeks ago, but then obviously Jerome Powell's comments, he really threw a wrench and caused a massive exodus of capital. But I will say this, is that overall, I do think midterm you're going much, much lower, but short term, I actually think you're getting close to some supports on the S&P 500. If we take a look at the chart here, so number one, look at the high. I mean, this is where charts... Paul, I'm a chart guy. Yep. How do people not look at charts? Connect this top here, which was the all-time high, to this, and it gave you the exact high of this huge bounce. Not only that, but throw in your 200 moving average, and look, you went right to the 200 moving average right here as well. So I think that's remarkable. And the question is, as we're falling down here, where are we going? I think this is where the S&P is going to go short term before a bounce, right around 391 on the SPY. We'll probably bounce there, maybe coincides with a dollar decline. And then I think the next leg finally takes us down and takes out those lows. I still have a target on the SPY or the S&P 500 much, much lower, basically the pre-COVID highs. So I think the pre-COVID highs, we have to revisit that. I don't know if it'll be by year end, but I think it's very likely by year end or early 2023. Yeah, so we could do Ethereum to Bitcoin. Sure, absolutely. Let's see what we got here. So, and again, I don't usually look at this chart, so this is going to be the first time I'm looking at this chart. I usually look at it in terms of dollars. But basically what you can see is you basically got this almost pseudo triple top up here. And now what's intriguing about that is that triple tops, the more you hit a level like this when it's a triple top, the more likely you get a breakout. So what this could tell us is that you might see Ethereum versus Bitcoin actually make a big move here. Maybe that coincides with the merge. We'll have to see, but it certainly is an interesting chart here. And you could even argue that you have this lower channel as well, right from here. So you have a kind of a pivot low here, here, and then over here you kind of pierced it before this recent move. But this looks like a bullish pattern to me. So it wouldn't shock me to see Ethereum start to make a move to the upside. Yeah, assuming you get the breakout, right? So again, we always as traders, we don't want to jump the gun because sometimes we can get caught with our pants down in that scenario. So we want to see if it breaks out, then yes, I think that's the play where you're going to get Ethereum to start making more market cap or advancing its market cap versus Bitcoin's market cap. Oh, XRP.
For me, it's all the same in the bear market, but
yeah. So basically XRP, we're still waiting on this elusive judge ruling, which, by the way, how long is this going on? It's been like almost a year, I feel like it at this point. But basically what you have is you have the chart telling you that something is going to come out probably in the next month or so. The reason why I say that is you have this massive wedge pattern, and a wedge comes to a point, And when it comes to a point, price either has to break out or it has to break down, one or the other. And right now you're just hugging the lower end here on that chart. So you want to see Ethereum, you want to see Ripple hold the 31 cent level here. If it breaks down, that would be a negative. That could imply a negative judge ruling. If it's able to rally up and take out, then you got the positive side. So basically, a wedge pattern is telling you price has been consolidating. We know that from the chart here, and it tells you that at some point here, when the two lines merge together into a triangular point, you're going to get a big break one way or the other. No, I'm not. No, for me, it's too, as a trader, it's too risky to not, when you have a decision that's going to either have a big pop or big drop based on one judge, that's too much for me to handle in terms of risk. I can't quantify that risk and make it make sense. And listen, sometimes I miss the run that way, but I'm okay with that as a trader. It's like, you just have to analyze that risk reward. That was a crazy one, man. And by the way, I think before all is said and done, you're going to see more issues like that. There'll be other cryptocurrencies that go that route. Whether or not as big as that one, that was a monster, but I do think it's not going to be the only one. Take a look at Matic here. Share my screen. So Matic actually percentage-wise, and this is one of the things that I've liked about Matic, is that it has held up better, right? So we see Bitcoin testing the 19.5-ish area, only a 2,000 off of the 17.5 recent low. And I know I have a lot of charts, lines on here, but what I like is that you're way off the lows on Matic, on Polygon. And that's actually a short-term positive. It doesn't mean you won't fall, but what I would do is I would look to buy, and I'm going to erase some of these lines so we can, and this is a level I will actually look to purchase Polygon at, this line right here. And again, I'm going to get rid of some of these other ones so people don't get confused. But basically, you get back a retrace here. I think it's a very attractive trend line. And again, for me, this is right around the 63 cent marker. So if you can get a fall into that, I'd be a buyer at 63 cents. Yeah, exactly. And again, people need to remember that is you don't have to nail the exact bottom. It's more about the safety of the trade, that once it's safe, once you see that something's occurring, then it's an easier risk assessment to make. Hex, let's take a look here. See what we got on that one. I got some former lines on this one. Let's extend that out here. So we could extend that right to there. It looks like this one comes right down here. And wow, look at that. Let me erase this one. So basically, what you have is a beautiful triangle, and you're really right at the head here. It's very Ripple-esque in that you're coming to this head, so you're either going to have a break lower or a breakout. And again, if you break out, you probably go back to about 7 cents. A breakdown, you go back to these recent lows around 2.7 cents, it looks like.
What do you think of those inverse hammers with the long tails, though?
Yeah, so that can show that, again, there were buyers there and then sellers kind of came out. But the fact is that it's touching the upper line and the lower line, so that's very, very normal. You have algorithms, you could have computers, whatever it may be, or just investors that were buying there and then selling here, and it just kind of creates this chop until you either get a breakout or a breakdown.
Got you. Do you have a favorite altcoin you can show us?
Oh, my goodness, a favorite one. Let's see here. I would keep an eye on, Cardano. Let's take a look at Cardano here. Cardano had this little bit of an uptrend. It failed, but it's still holding here. It's starting to inch up. Not an amazing chart by any stretch, but you do have a level to trade against, which is pretty close, right around the 40 cent level. That would be a level that you want to see it hold. It's at 45 cents right now. And then let's look at Polkadot here and see what we got on Polkadot. And by the way, these aren't necessarily my favorites, but these are some of the bigger ones to look at. And the chart is much the same here. You had this beautiful pop. It's come back in. Now you need to see these levels hold. To me, you're going to have a lot of resistance around 780. If it gets through 780, it might run to 950 on the Polkadot chart. But again, definitely not an amazing chart here either. I'm trying to think of what other ones could be useful to look at. Let's take a look at BNB, Binance. Yeah, Binance is not a horrendous chart. You have broken below this kind of upsloping channel, but if you look at how far off the lows it is, that's a really nice move off the lows. Now, again, I still wouldn't be a buyer until it probably gets down to like 245 or so down here. But again, I like charts that as we're seeing Bitcoin come down, getting close to its recent June lows, they're holding well above. It shows that relative strength. And if you get a bounce, those should be the ones that perform the best. In a bear market, education is everything, right? In a bull market, you close your eyes, you throw a dart at the crypto board or at the stock board, and you probably make money. In this environment, it separates the people that don't know anything from the people that have actually learned things. So you got to start learning. You got to start being able to control your emotions. There's basically 3 keys to becoming a master trader, right? You have discipline, which you have to be disciplined, or the markets, especially bear markets, will eat you alive. Emotional control, which is emotions, goes into the same kind of thought process. You can't get excited at the highs, like on Bitcoin at 69,000. You have to remain objective. And then also you have to look at it and say, how do I use that knowledge about noticing the emotional state of investors that aren't me? And how do I use that to my advantage? When you see everyone clamoring for Bitcoin at 69,000, you need to be able to step back and say, whoa, that's kind of scary to me. That's a mark of a top, and let me not chase that. And then lastly, technicals, charts. You have bottoming tails, you have topping tails, reversal can. I mean, there's everything in the chart is like a book in a foreign language. We don't know how to read it. If we learn how to read it, it's very, very helpful to making money in any market. So I think the biggest thing is to do very small position size. So if you have a project you're interested in, if you have a stock that you love, there's nothing wrong with trying it out, but especially in a bear market, try it out very, very small. I would generally tell you to gravitate towards the better things like Ethereum and Bitcoin, or if you're in the stock market, you look at some of the better quality names that you know won't go bust in a really bad recession. But again, start small. Doing it small, number one, it takes emotion out, right? If you have $100 in a stock or in a crypto, you really don't have that emotional nature to you where you're like, oh my goodness, every little uptick and downtick you're freaking out over. That's important, and it allows you to dollar cost average, which is the name of the game here, right? You know, Bitcoin, I'm a big believer long term. It may go to 5,000 for all I know, but if I dollar cost average and slowly inch in, my average gets lower and lower. When we get the bull run, I do very, very well.